Keep listening to English every single day helps improve your understanding and speaking naturally. It trains your ears to recognize words, sounds, and phrases. Daily practice builds confidence, vocabulary, and fluency. Stay patient and consistent. The more you listen, the more confident you'll become in speaking and understanding English fluently. You are not even close to understanding anything. There are moments in life when someone might say, "You are not even close to understanding anything." At first, this phrase may sound harsh, almost insulting. It can feel like an attack, as though all of your effort, thought, and curiosity mean nothing. Yet, if we look more deeply, this sentence carries more meaning than just criticism. It touches on the limits of human knowledge, the struggles of learning, and the vastness of the world around us. It reminds us that no matter how much we think we know, there is always more to discover, and often we are still far from the truth. To explore this idea, let us think about learning itself. Imagine a child in school trying to solve a difficult math problem. The child feels confident, believing the answer is correct, but the teacher shakes her head and gently says, "You are not even close to understanding." At that moment, the child may feel embarrassed or discouraged. Yet it is also a turning point. That statement is not meant to destroy confidence, but to awaken curiosity. It is a reminder that what we think we know may only be a shadow of what there truly is to learn. This phrase also reflects the nature of human knowledge in general. Think about history. Centuries ago, people believed the Earth was the center of the universe. Great philosophers and scientists defended this idea as truth. Looking back, we can say that humanity was not even close to understanding the cosmos. The reality was far larger and more complex than anyone could imagine. Similarly, today we may believe we understand the human brain, the environment, or the universe itself, but in 1,000 years, future generations may look back and think of us in the same way. They were not even close to understanding anything. This shows how knowledge is always expanding and how small our perspective can be. On a personal level, this phrase can also apply to relationships. Often, we think we understand the people around us, our family, friends, or colleagues, but in truth, we may only see the surface of their experiences. For example, imagine someone telling their friend, "You are not even close to understanding what I'm going through." This happens when pain, struggle, or emotion runs so deep that words cannot capture it. Sometimes people who suffer feel misunderstood because others simplify their experience. They may assume things are easy to solve, when in fact the situation is much harder. This teaches us humility. We must listen more deeply, with empathy, because often we are not even close to understanding what another person carries inside their heart. Philosophy also connects strongly with this phrase. Socrates, the ancient Greek philosopher, once said that true wisdom comes from knowing that you know nothing. In other words, the more you study, the more you realize how little you truly understand. When someone says, "You are not even close to understanding anything," it can be taken as a reminder of that same wisdom. Perhaps it is not a statement of failure, but an invitation to begin again, to see that knowledge is infinite and humility is necessary. There is also a psychological side to this. Human beings often believe they understand more than they do. This is known as the illusion of knowledge. For example, many people think they know how a simple object, like a bicycle, works. But if asked to draw every piece of it or explain how each part functions, most people will struggle. They are not even close to fully understanding the details. Life is filled with examples like this, from technology to medicine to politics. We live surrounded by complex systems, yet often we understand only the surface level. At the same time, the phrase can feel discouraging when used in a negative way. If spoken harshly, it may sound like a door is being closed, as if there is no hope of learning. This is why tone and intention matter. Used with care, it can motivate someone to dig deeper, to work harder, and to stay curious. Used without kindness, it may push someone into giving up. The way we handle misunderstanding plays a large role in whether people continue their journey of discovery or stop trying altogether. Let us also reflect on how this idea relates to personal growth. In our teenage years, many of us feel as though we already understand the world. We believe we know how life works, how relationships should go, or how to succeed. Yet, as adults, we look back and realize we were not even close to understanding. We were learning, making mistakes, and slowly gathering wisdom. Even as adults, the process does not end. 10 years from now, you may look back at your present self and think the same thing. Growth is endless, and each stage of life reveals how little we knew before. This phrase can even inspire humility in fields like science and art. A scientist might dedicate decades to studying a single subject and still admit, I am not even close to understanding everything about it. An artist may paint, write, or compose for a lifetime, always feeling that the mystery of beauty and creativity is too vast to fully capture. Both science and art remind us that there is always more than meets the eye. Another way to see it is through spirituality. Many spiritual teachers suggest that human beings cannot fully understand the universe, the soul, or the divine. Our minds are limited, and our language is small compared to the infinite. When we try to explain life's deepest mysteries, perhaps we are not even close to understanding. This does not mean we should stop searching. Instead, it means we should search with humility, knowing that the journey itself is meaningful even if the final truth is beyond us. Finally, there is comfort in this realization. At first, the idea that you are not even close to understanding anything can feel overwhelming. But it can also be freeing. If we do not need to understand everything, then we can accept mystery as part of life. We can enjoy curiosity, wonder, and discovery without the pressure of complete knowledge. Every day can be seen as an opportunity to learn something new, to grow a little closer to understanding, even if we never reach the full truth. In the end, the phrase, you are not even close to understanding anything, is both a challenge and a gift. It challenges us to admit our limits and push further in our studies, relationships, and reflections. At the same time, it gifts us humility, reminding us that we are students of life, not masters. It teaches us to listen, to explore, to keep questioning, and to never assume we know it all. So the next time you hear this sentence, do not take it only as an insult. Think of it as a reminder that knowledge is vast, that understanding is a journey, and that being not even close is not the end. It is simply the beginning. A story of not even close to understanding the afternoon was quiet, except for the ticking of the old clock on the wall. Alex sat at his desk with a book open in front of him, pages filled with complicated ideas about philosophy and science. His eyes moved slowly across the words, but his mind could not keep up. The more he read, the less he seemed to understand. Frustration grew in his chest until he slammed the book shut and muttered, "What's the point? I don't get any of this." From the doorway, his mentor, Professor Gray, spoke gently. That's because you are not even close to understanding anything yet. Alex frowned. The words stung like an insult. Not even close? I've been reading for hours. I've been trying to figure this out. How can you say I'm not even close? Professor Gray walked into the room and placed a hand on the book. Because understanding is not the same as reading. You think you're learning by staring at the pages, but you're only touching the surface. True understanding requires patience, reflection, and sometimes even failure. Alex leaned back in his chair, frustrated. So what do I do? Keep reading until I collapse? I want to understand, but it feels impossible. The professor smiled. Do you remember when you first tried to ride a bicycle? Of course, Alex said quickly. I fell so many times I nearly gave up. Exactly, Gray replied. At the time, you weren't even close to understanding balance. But after practice, after falling and getting back up, your body learned what your mind could not explain. Understanding often comes the same way, through experience, through time, through living the lesson, not just studying it. Alex sighed, but he thought about it. Perhaps his frustration was part of the process. Maybe he had mistaken effort for mastery. That night, he left the book closed on his desk and walked outside. The stars glimmered above him, endless and mysterious. He stared at the sky and whispered, I'm not even close to understanding anything up there. And yet, the thought did not make him sad. It filled him with wonder. Over the next weeks, Alex approached his studies differently. Instead of forcing himself to get it instantly, he allowed himself to sit with confusion. He asked questions, wrote down thoughts, and even admitted when he didn't understand. Slowly, something changed. He began to notice connections between ideas. Things that once seemed impossible started to make sense, not fully, but enough to give him hope. One afternoon, during a discussion with Professor Gray, Alex explained his new approach. I think I understand now why you told me I wasn't even close. I thought knowledge was like climbing a mountain, reach the top and you're done. But now I see it's more like walking through a forest. There's always another path, another mystery. The professor nodded approvingly. Exactly. And even when you think you know the forest well, you will realize it is larger than you imagined. That's the humility of learning. Alex chuckled. So I'll never fully understand? Perhaps not, Gray admitted. But that's not failure. That's the adventure of being human. Her words hit him hard. But this time he didn't argue. He remembered what Professor Gray had taught him. Understanding is deeper than assumptions. He realized he could not fully know Maya's pain because it was hers alone. Instead of insisting, he asked softly, Then help me listen. Help me see what I can't on my own. Maya looked at him with surprise, then slowly opened up. She told him about her feelings of betrayal, her fears about the future, and the weight she carried inside her heart. Alex didn't interrupt. He didn't pretend to fix everything. He simply listened. And in that listening, though he was still not close to full understanding, he was closer than before. That night, Alex realized that the phrase, "You are not even close to understanding anything," was not a curse. It was a reminder to be humble, to approach others with empathy instead of certainty. Months passed, and Alex continued his journey. He studied hard, he listened deeply, and he accepted that some mysteries could not be solved quickly. One day, he asked his professor, Do you think we ever reach full understanding of life? Professor Gray smiled, the kind of smile that carried decades of wisdom. If anyone tells you they fully understand life, they are mistaken. The wisest people are the ones who admit they are not even close. But don't see this as hopeless. See it as an invitation. Every day you live, every person you meet, every lesson you learn brings you closer, not to complete understanding, but to deeper appreciation. Alex sat quietly with those words. He thought about his past, his frustration, his failures, his small victories. He thought about the stars, the books, the people he cared about. Maybe he would never fully understand them, but maybe that was okay. For the first time, the phrase that once hurt him now felt like a gift. It no longer sounded like rejection. It sounded like freedom. Freedom to keep learning, to keep listening, to keep being surprised by the world. As he walked home that evening, the streets glowing under the city lights, he whispered to himself, I may not be close to understanding anything, but I am closer than I was yesterday. And tomorrow, I will be closer still. This story shows that the phrase, you are not even close to understanding anything, does not have to be a final judgment. Instead, it can be a lesson in humility, growth, and patience. It teaches us that 1. Learning takes time. True understanding cannot be rushed. 2. We must accept confusion. Not knowing is the beginning of wisdom. 3. Relationships require humility. We cannot always get what someone is going through, but we can listen. 4. Life is infinite. The mysteries of the world are too vast to be fully solved, but they invite us to keep exploring. Understanding, therefore, is not a destination. It is a journey. And perhaps being not even close is exactly where we are meant to be because it keeps us curious, humble, and alive.